Hello everyone, welcome to my channel English Literature with Sumi. So in today's video we are going to discuss about the age of Elizabeth, which is one of the important ages of the history of English literature. The age ranges from 1550 to 1620. First, let me tell you what I am going to discuss in this video. So, I'll firstly discuss about the historical background, then the poets of the period, then the dramatists of the period, then prose writers, and then I'll discuss about the development of literary forms during this period. So, let's get started. So, firstly, the age is characterized by Queen Elizabeth's love for England and its greatness, and she even inspired her people with the unbound patriotism which is clearly seen in William Shakespeare's works and his writings. During this age, English literature reached its highest point of development as compared to the previous ages. And one of the most important characteristic feature of the age is its religious tolerance. Queen Elizabeth, when she ascended the throne, she found that the whole kingdom is divided against itself. The north was largely Catholic, while the southern countries were as strongly Protestant. So, the court, made up of both the parties, witnessed the rival intrigues that were going on among its people, and Elizabeth favored both religious parties, the Protestant and the Catholic. So, with this period, the fundamental question of religious toleration seemed to be settled, and it also gave freedom of mind to the people. So again, it was also an age of social contentment, which is in sharp contrast to the previous ages. While discussing about the previous ages, I have told you that there were conflict going on between classes and people, between different classes of people. During this age, all the people are filled with enthusiasm because there were many new fields to discover, like explorers were coming up with new ideas and also new places. And one famous example of this enthusiasm or exploration is found in Hakluyt's famous collection of voyages, in which we can find a new world for the fountain of youth. Okay, so that is how this age is characterized by. So as a whole, we can say that the age of Elizabeth was a period of intellectual liberty, growing intelligence and comfort among all the classes. Now let us discuss about the poets of the period. One of the most important poet of the period is Edmund Spenser, 1552 to 1599. He was born in London in 1552. His life and works is marked by three places, and they had great influence on his work as well. These three places are Cambridge, London and Ireland. In Cambridge, he grew acquainted with the classics and the Italian poets. In London, he experienced the glamour and disappointment of the court life. And in Ireland, he grew acquainted with the beauty and imagery of the old Celtic poetry, which also gave him inspiration to write his first masterpiece. Spenser, he considered Chaucer his master, but his ambition was never to equal Chaucer, but he only wanted to portray through his works the English chivalry of that period. And The Faerie Queene is his greatest work upon which his fame entirely rests. The original plan of Spenser was to create or write for 24 books, but he could only complete only 6 books. And The Faerie Queene, that is has appeared in installment. And in 1589, when Spenser crossed to London, he published the first 3 books. Okay. In 1596, the second 3 followed, and after his death, the other 2 followed. So in this way, he had written the books. So other minor poems of his career include The Shepherd's Calendar, The Briar and the Oak, Mother Hubbard's Tale, The Ruins of Rome, Astrophel, Amority, Epithalamion, etc. Then we have Thomas Sackville, 1536 to 1608. He is often classed with Wyatt and Surrey, about whom we have discussed in our previous video. He only completed two of his poems, that is Induction and Complaint of the Duke of Buckingham. These two poems are written in rhyme royal stanza, and they are melancholic and elegiac in spirit and are archaic in language. The poems is said to have assisted Spenser in the composition of the Faerie Queene. He also collaborated with Thomas Norton in the first English tragedy, that is Gorboda. Then we have Philip Sidney, 1554 to 1586. He was the most commanding literary figure and is more interesting as a man than as a writer. And his three major works include Arcadia, which is a pastoral romance, then The Apology for Poetry, which is a literary criticism work, and Astrophel and Stella, which is a collection of songs. Then we have George Chapman. George Chapman, 1559 to 1634. He spent most of his life among the dramatists, and his most famous work include a metrical translation of the Iliad and the Odyssey. He is also remembered as the finisher of Marlowe's Hero and Leander. We will discuss about this when we discuss Marlowe, in which apart from the drama, the Renaissance movement is seen at perhaps its highest point. Then we have Michael Drayton, 1563 to 1631. He is the most voluminous and interesting of the minor poets. His chief works include Polybion, and his other works include Roncesvalles and the Heroic Epistle of England. And among these, one of the best is the Battle of Agincourt. It is a ballad written in the lively meter, which Tennyson also used, with some variations in the charge of the Light Brigade, and which also shows the Old English love of brave deeds and of the songs that stir a memory of noble ancestors in people's heart. Now we come to the dramatists of the period. In today's video, I'm only going to name the few dramatists, not few, but the dramatists that were working during the age of Elizabeth, and in my next video I will be completely dealing with the drama, that is the rise of the drama during the Elizabethan period. So let's see in today's video who are the dramatists. There were three types of drama. First is pre-Shakespearean drama, then is Shakespearean drama, then we have Shakespeare's contemporaries and successors. Pre-Shakespearean drama includes the influence of Seneca, that is before Shakespeare came to the drama field. It was Seneca who had a great influence on people and also the dramatists. We have the university wits like George Peele, Robert Greene, Thomas Nash, Thomas Lodge, Thomas Keed and Christopher Marlowe. Shakespearean drama, that is the period of Shakespearean drama, includes solely the plays and works of William Shakespeare. Then we have Shakespeare's contemporaries and successors, during which period it is said that the drama began to decline. These playwrights include Ben Jonson, Beaumont and Fletcher, John Webster, Thomas Middleton, Thomas Heywood and Thomas Dekker. So in today's video, I am just focusing on the dramatists, not their works, nothing, only the names I have given here. And in my next video, I will be discussing solely about the rise of drama, because it's not possible to elaborate here entirely on the rise of the drama, because there are many factors to discuss in the rise of the drama section. So I'll be discussing that in my next video. Now let us discuss about the prose writers of the period. Firstly, we have Francis Bacon, 1561 to 1626. He He was one of the most famous essayists, and he wrote both in Latin and English. He is one of the founders of modern systematic thought, and in his works also we can see this modern thought. So firstly, his English works include essays, The Advancement of Learning, The History of Henry VII, The New Atlantis. Then his Latin works include Instauratio Magna. Then this Instauratio Magna, it includes various works or philosophies like De Augmentis Scientiarum, then Novum Organum, then Silva Silverum, Scala Intellectus, Prodromi, Philosophia Secunda, and only half of this work is completed. Actually, this Instauratio Magna, it is a collection of his philosophical treatise, and his English work, that is essays, were also which appeared in 1597, are 10 in number. Then we have Richard Hooker, 1554 to 1600. He was also one of the prose writers of the Elizabethan age, whom we can see in stark contrast with Francis Bacon. His one great work is The Laws of Ecclesiastical Poetry, which is a theological and argumentative work. But it is entirely apart from its subject, and it is read mostly wherever people desire it to read it, in terms of the power and stateliness of the English language. Then we have Philip Sidney, about which I have already discussed in the poetry section. Then up next we have Raleigh. Now Raleigh, he is a mixture of poet, scholar and adventurer, and about his dates it is not sure when he was born or when he died, so I have not mentioned it here. So he is a mixture of poet, scholar and adventurer. His chief works include Discovery of Guinea and The History of the World. Then we have John Foxe. He is solely remembered for his Book of Martyrs, which is actually a book that elders used to give to their younger ones, and it is often thought as a book which teaches us good discipline and which also inflict on our soul good behavior. Then we have Camden and Knox. Both of them were historians, and Camden's Britannia is his monumental work. John Knox is also a reformer, who is famous for his History of the Reformation in Scotland. Camden's Britannia marks the beginning of the true antiquarian research in the field of history. And in Knox's The History of the Reformation in Scotland, we can find vivid portraits of his helpers and his enemies, and there are both personal and aggressive elements in his work. Then we have Halkut and Purkes, that is, they were the two editors during this age. Halkut's work include Principal Navigation, Voyages and Discoveries of the English Nation, and Purkes was a clergyman who continued the works of Halkut. His famous work include Purkes' Pilgrimage. Then up next we have Thomas Nott. He is also one of the most deserving translators of the period. His translation of Plutarch's Life is famous. Now let us discuss about the development of literary forms. Firstly, poetry. There are various kinds of poetry that developed during this period. They are lyrical poetry, dramatic poetry, descriptive and narrative poetry, religious, satirical and didactic poetry. Now dramatic poetry, firstly lyrical poetry. The temper of the age was suited to the lyrical mood, and so there was abundance of lyrical poetry in the works of the writers. Then we have dramatic poetry. The exuberant and adventurous nature of the age also also found expression in the dramatic poetry of that time, in the works of Shakespeare and other writers. Then descriptive and narrative poetry. This is also convenient because in this period there begins the works of Saxon's Introduction to the Mirror of Magistrate. Then we have the pastoral poems like Spenser's Shepherd's Calendar. Then we have religious and didactic poetry, but these group of poetry, that is religious, satirical and didactic poetry, when we compare it to the other types of poetry, they cannot take a position which is equal to the importance of the rest of the poetry. Then comes the drama. There were three types of drama: tragedy, comedy and masque. But firstly, the opening of the Elizabethan period saw the drama which is struggling into maturity. And with regard to development of the different dramatic types, we have already mentioned, or we will know about it, that it was Shakespeare who developed tragedy first, and in post Shakespearean drama we could find that there was the development of a light comedy. Then masque came into being, which is a short dramatic performance composed for some particular festive occasions, such as the marriage or majority of great man's son, etc. Then there were prose, like essays, novels, literary criticism and miscellaneous prose. Essays found its development in the works of Francis Bacon. Novel we could see in Sidney's Arcadia, then Bacon's New Atlantis. Then literary criticism, that is the birth of literary criticism, indicates actually the growing of a national literature and the realization of the need to establish principles of writing, how a writer should write, what areas he should avoid and what areas he should actually accept into his works. Then miscellaneous prose includes the different pamphlets that were written during that period. So that's all for today, and if you are new to my channel and you have not yet subscribed to it, do subscribe and press the bell icon to get the latest notifications. In my next video, I will be discussing about the rise of drama in details. So stay tuned for my next video.